Hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm really excited to really spend this time with you guys and to explore someone very special to all of us. As we know, he doesn't show often, so when he does, it's a celebration. And so I'm really happy to see everyone here, present and celebrating a local artist and just such a beloved person of this community. So thank you. My name is Samantha Vitone. I am Chase's partner. So that's one reason why this conversation will be so special, because I get to really see his process and his thoughts and the full practice. Because this is just a glimpse. And so welcome to Glimpses, Chase's first exhibition in 2 years.
Wow.
3 years?
3 years.
Oh, 3 years. There we go. 3 years. The last one was Neo the Birth, that was held at Left of Center Gallery. And so now kind of a accumulation of like being here today, and so we're excited to discuss that with you. The talk will be structured into 2 parts. I'll spend about 30 minutes just kind of having a conversation with Chase and kind of, I guess, asking questions that I'm curious about, right? And I get to see everything, and so it may not be the questions that you have, and so the second half will kind of lead up to an open Q&A where everybody can ask any questions that you feel called to, because I know a lot of people have many different interpretations of his work and their own personal resonance, and so we want to make sure we do that. So I am so excited to be your moderator and conversationalist today. Okay. And conversationalist. And so we'll get started into it. I kind of want to just introduce, for those who may not know, Chase Ryan McCurdy.
Not the
He is born and raised here in Las Vegas and comes from quite a legacy of early black settlers here in the historic West Side. And if you know him, you know he's intentionally here in this part of town to honor his legacy and his ancestral duty, as he will say. And so we just want to honor that, honor the ancestors that have created you and brought you here to be with us. And yeah, I'm so excited. If you haven't heard the story before, Chase and I met back in 2016. He was like the second person I ever shot with. This was during an iteration where he was a photographer.
You were?
A model. So I was his muse, and he reached out to me to do an editorial shoot. And if you know Chase, he does everything to the best of his ability. And so it was really such a special experience to work with him. And this is previous to our romantic relationship. And so to just see his creative process when he was a photographer was very special. Shortly after that, he left and went to Paris to get his master's degree in fine arts. And so he had that experience of like leaving the US and exploring the world in that way. And so that was very special as well. And that kind of like the return led to you, I mean, when you were there, you were studying, you were kind of really searching, right? Philosophical discovery, political discovery, social discovery in a lot of ways, right? And so his return, I feel like, is a reflection of that, and I feel like that's really the catalyst that started your practice, right? Yeah. This practice, this iteration of your practice. And so if anybody knows Chase, he has over 1,000 works, with many of them never seen before, and he's very protective of his practice. And so I'll start it there in terms of just discussing sharing and sharing with us and sharing with people. What is your philosophy behind sharing, and why now? Why are you starting to share now?
Amazing question. But first off, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here, being in space. We always like to start with that idea that you could have been anywhere in the world at this moment, but you are here with us. Your time, your resources, through gas, the rest, we appreciate you. I don't share very often. I'm not an artist that practices to share. right? I know a lot of times that relationship with sharing is very upfront in the arts, but my practice is one, as Samantha kind of alluded to, this ancestral duty. It's very spirit operated. I say if I have the words for it, I don't need to paint it or the rest. I'll just say what I got to say. The painting, especially, is a place that comes from spiritual freedom, allowing myself and not trying. And in that, I'm constantly going, and the practice is very sacred. I don't take for granted that I'm called forth to make these things that seem to have an impact on others. And for the things that come forth from my spirit, and then my physical being, for these things to have an impact is profound and a gift. So I feel part of that gift is a responsibility of sharing when the time is right. And the time is just, the time was kind of forced upon us. I wasn't planning to have a solo show until later in the year. But those of you that know us, our brother Malachi Sparrow Williams was supposed to have a solo show here. Someone who is deep spiritually part of our community in our village tribe here with 33G. He had to recently move back to Arizona with his family, so he wasn't able to make his solo show happen. And we tried everything, right? Like, he's like, hey man, I know we were supposed to load in like a week before, but I can't make it. Can I bring the work on Friday night? The opening was supposed to be the next Saturday morning. And I'm like, hey, whatever, man. We'll figure it out. We'll stay up all night. We'll get it going. But he finally, had to bow out and say, I can't do it a couple days before we were supposed to open. And so I felt it would be unfair to put another artist in that position to scramble to have a solo showing, right? Knowing how special the opportunity is to exhibit work, and we didn't want to put that pressure. So if somebody's just doing it, they're not able to fully express themselves. So I just took it upon myself, and I said it's time. And so we set forth to curating a show, and this is that glimpse, and it feels right. I tell folks it's very much like a mixtape. Those of you that know me, I make analogies to Nipsey Hussle as a rapper and his practice very often. This is very much a Crenshaw mixtape, because he had that run, right, where he's talking about Victory Lap in every mixtape. And you like, Victory Lap, where is Victory Lap? And then finally he hits us with Victory Lap years after hitting us with amazing mixtapes. And I feel like I'm just on that beginning, knowing that we got a lot more to show. This really is just a glimpse.
It truly is just a glimpse, and we're so excited to see more, but also just excited to see this like little peek into your world. You being the gallery director and community leader that we all know you to be, I feel like a lot of us have been curious as to what you have been, well, not me, because I see it all.
Yeah, y'all think I'm funny with pictures. Almost every time I finish an artwork, I take a picture and send it to her.
So I got all the exclusive in case anybody wants to see anything. I'll charge a little side money. And so, I mean, you mentioned this term practice.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
You mention it all the time. And so you excel at everything you do, and the reason why you do is because you practice. So I just want to ask you, what is your definition of practice? What was your earliest experience with practice, and how do you define being in practice?
That's good.
I mean, I give it to my ancestors first and foremost, those who came before me, my mother, father, my grandparents. I see practice as daily work. We come from people who aren't so much worried about the arts or fine art. I come from people who are in labor and in law enforcement. People who very much believe in trying to uphold certain ideals and a certain value system, work hard, be sincere, be decent, be honest. And so for me, that foundation is all, laid in who I come from and how I was raised. And from there, when it comes to the arts in particular, I think I talk a lot about philosophy, right? And baseline ideals or ideas. Like, this is what I'm dealing with in the arts. These physical things we call artworks are more just outpourings that kind of naturally occur during my deeper work of really trying to create an ideology, created crazy enough to be able to handle this world as it is with all of its contradictory and conflicting natures, try to articulate a way that our future ancestors can live in this thing in a way that keeps them more spiritually whole, right? So these things just pop out. So the practice, whatever any of us endeavor to do with our lives, whether it be our work, our passion, our purpose, the practice is, just your desire to improve, to be better, right? Not so much focused on the outcome, but focused on how you show up every day. That's where the practice comes in, and you can apply that practice to whatever activity, right, you so choose. For me, it just manifests in the arts. But whatever I choose to put my mind to, like the baseline value system, who I am as a person, how I approach things, is going to come forth, right? And so that's what I like to inspire people with. Not so much inspire people to be an artist, but inspiring folks to find what it is that their purpose is, and then to set upon that, we'll refer to NIP again, get on your marathon and just run it. And just go but fall in love with the practice, fall in love with doing great, fall in love with showing up, if it's getting up early, if it's choosing to read instead of watching something, if it's whatever it is, if it's choosing to exercise, like whatever, you set it, like, you set your bar and you just, and you proceed to fulfill it.
That's good. Yeah, powerful. I think I also like the note of the intentionality behind you kind of speaking to our future ancestors, right? Like even that term is very interesting to me. Like when you think of ancestry, you think of the people who have came before you, but to be so cognizant that there are people that we speak about our youth, but they are our future ancestors. Eventually they will be the ones, eventually we will be, but they will also be the next generation that also kind of has that responsibility, and so really cognizant, and I appreciate that thought. And I guess it makes a good pathway to kind of discuss, you had a quote, you describe your work as a physical manifestation of the spiritual.
Yeah.
And so how does your identity, both personal, spiritual, and ancestral, shape your creative process? Because it very much is that.
Yeah.
And so how do those tie, and what does it kind of flow out to be?
You talk about the time in Paris earlier, a lot of study. A lot of you that know me, like I like talking about the years I spent without a television, or how a lot of folks would look at an opportunity like living in Paris and, immediately think something romantic. But I was in a place of very deep study, of study regarding our history in particular, amongst other things that make one feel very uncomfortable. But we go with who we are. And in that I came to, because I'm just making these works, right? These things are just kind of happening. So I say physical manifestation of the spiritual, right? Like I don't know. I don't do like the idea and then paint. I don't have a concept and then paint. I don't do like, this is what I want to communicate and then set forth to think about the images to communicate it. I'm deep in my study in my world, and I work very hard. There's like an intellectual practice, and then there's also a spiritual practice that, while at the same time I'm reading and trying to learn everything to the point where I'm reading books and I'm looking at a footnote and I done read the damn footnote already. Like, to getting to know this concrete reality and dealing with how it does not need to be the way that it is, while in a very deep spiritual practice, allowing the spirit to fly free and working very hard to recognize that universal spiritual universe that some of us tied to heaven or, God, some of us in the conscious kind of communities refer to in other ways. But it circles back to this idea, as I've had conversations and now as I've made these things years later, right, 2018, 2017, 2019, 2020, I recognize that, and this is how it ties ancestrally, and this is one interpretation, they changed, but when I look at these works, it's very much here, very much black and white, very much concrete. Bless you. And then there's a point at which we get into this world, which is free, which almost feels uninhabited. These worlds feel almost like you've gone through a portal. And if there's anything that I've ever felt that my people have needed as black people, is to be left alone. Over and over, when I think of the history of the people that I come from, I think of a people who were minding their business and who were not left alone. Whether it be those in the continent of Africa who had to be quote unquote discovered, whether it be, you talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street, the Red Summer of 1919, any of these moments, black folks could have just been left alone and we'd be fine to be free. And I think at some point I jumped into a portal and I stumbled upon some free spaces that my people can go to, and at the very least spiritually be free of many of the constraints that have unfairly been placed upon us.
I think that's my favorite part about your practice, though, is because you're, as the artist, and not that it's your duty, but you produce that critical thought and you're opening the portal for us. And so for you to be able to demonstrate it in this way, it allows a lot of us who have this similar feeling, feel free to come on in.
Oh, come on in, fam. Oh, that's the famous. That's the famous. Yeah, come on, Your Honor. Shit, there's a chair right over here. You can step in front. Yeah, come on, man. Come on. Yeah. VIP. You want some wine? You want some water? What you need?
But you just, you really allow us to step into that portal with you, and give us a chance to explore that space of freedom, that Afrofuturism that you are given to us, and that other realm of life and freedom and what we all wish we can achieve, right? And so we appreciate that. One thing you talk about a lot, though, is how you don't intentionally plan to do any of this. It just comes, right? It just comes out. And so I'm going to read this off because it's quite intentional. But how do you balance your intuition and structure in your creative process? And then since you don't always like have a plan for a piece, how do you know when it's finished?
So first and foremost, freedom requires discipline. There's no sense of freedom that does not have discipline attached to it.
Say that again.
Right, like even when you think about being a prepper, which goes to its ultimate of being a homesteader or being self-sufficient, requires work, right? Freedom requires discipline. So especially in certain periods, I've gotten a bit softer in my life because I have my sweetheart. Thank you. There were years of being what many would call kind of militant in my approach. Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, not watching television, getting up first thing, drinking my water, getting into reading, then into exercising. So there's almost a living with discipline to create the space for freedom. Right? I can tell you why I do or don't do most everything I do or don't do in my life. Whether or not it's intentional or even those things that are like trauma related or personal thing related that we don't like that we do, whether or not I like it, I can pretty much speak to why I do most of what I do or don't do. And that is just to be ultimately aware, because to be in this space of an artist, quote unquote, that is really taking time to practice, you're rescuing time. Time equals money in capitalism. So even there, we were talking, Nyoka, about newsprint. I started using newsprint because it was cheap. Because I could just get to it. I could just over and over, make it move on. This is a bed sheet cut in half. Fuck it, some house paint I found in my daddy garage. Right? We're just gonna, you live within discipline, and it helps you to become a problem solver. It helps you, right? Like, we were talking back and forth, is struggle necessary? Yes and no. Right? Like, some of the greatest hustlers come out of a certain situation that you don't know if it might have been activated if they didn't go through that. Yeah, right. So it's like you never know, but definitely discipline to create the space of freedom. So living the discipline and living the freedom. It's hard to be free in a painting. I find myself most proud in a painting where it gets bigger and I do less. Because it's very easy to just to have to add to like, ooh, I should do this or should not do that, or worry about what somebody may think. These moments where the brush comes is where I'm really letting it go. Because that is what's required, but in balance with real discipline. And how do I know a work is done? I moved on to the next. I got a canvas in there that's been going for over a year. I've got canvases of the same size that I finish in like 2 weeks, so it's just constant, and you've seen it. I got the little notebook drawings. I'll sit at home and that'll be done in an hour, right? And there'll be ones that take a few days. There'll be ones that are bigger, but it just goes. And when I move on, I move on.
Yeah. I mean, you have many forms of the way you practice, right? So you have your notebook, you have a bigger notebook, then you got a little bigger notebook, and then he has the canvas, and then another canvas, and then some stretched or some unstretched canvas. Like, it's like multiple things all happening at once. So, and another thing I heard when you were speaking is like that trust and faith factor, right? Which also kind of ties back into your spirituality.
100%.
Of like, you're trusting and you have faith that whatever you're putting down, it's like, I think the fear that I have when I'm creating is like, oh, I don't want to mess up. Oh, if I do this, then you're going to mess up and the whole thing's ruined, right? And so you just being able to trust yourself enough to express yourself on something that can be so permanent, right?
Super duper.
I think that's very special.
Oh shit, it's another one. Hey, come on, y'all. Hey, come on. Yeah. We got 1 or 2 chairs up here. Come on, fam. What's good? Clean. Say it again. Talk to me.
Oh, no. That was it on that. I kind of wanted to switch gears a little bit and kind of get into some more, not technical, but kind of more so in terms of your study. You've taught in numerous classes here in this gallery. Come As You Are is something that we host monthly, and he's done Black artists, right? Specific dialogue and academia and just teaching. And so you talk a lot about kind of the people that you studied and that you look up to, like Jack Whitten, William T. Williams, Alma Thomas.
Come on, okay, Samantha.
Faith Ringgold.
All right, Samantha, we see you. Shit, all right.
And so these are the people that you study and you look to. And I have to admit, like, my exposure to art might be not as large, but I have not seen anything that necessarily replicates your work yet. And so when we talk about the people that you studied and creating something that's original, like, where do you see your work in conversation with the people that you have studied? And like, what would they say to each other? What does it look like? What does that conversation look like?
Oh man. So one of the photograph hiding in that little middle spot, APW, at the bottom is Jack Whitten, Notes from the Woodshed. And Notes from the Woodshed is his collection of studio notebooks over the years. When I discovered people like William T. Williams, right, because even studying art, right, if you get into the academic side of it, you're going to have to go through a whole lot of Europeans until you get to the books and the scholarship on art artists. I think we're in a beautiful time because really since like 2017, 18, 19, there's been a whole lot of scholarship and, these catalogs and works and the essays and but I didn't had to go through Smithsonian oral interview archives, right, to hear the words of Charles White, Jacob Lawrence. But especially someone like Jack Whitten, we're continuing the work. We're continuing the exploration, the practice. I'm very, very humbled to say that opening May 3rd at the Nevada Museum of Art in Reno, I will be in an exhibition I'll have 2 paintings in an exhibition titled "When Langston Hughes Came to Town." That is. This is an exhibition that was really curated around the discovery of photographs of Langston Hughes visiting Nevada 2 times. One time to investigate working conditions on the Hoover Dam, and another visit to northern Nevada. Well, in this exhibition, I will have 2 paintings alongside Norman Lewis, who you've heard me speak to, and someone who I teach, a black abstract artist. We're talking early to mid 20th century, right there with whatever big, white names that you want to say, but under-recognized. Buford Delaney, Augusta Savage, Dr. Deb Willis. So this is an opportunity where my paintings will be, the poems of Langston Hughes, my paintings will be in conversation with some of the best among us. And it's amazing, it's humbling, but we recognize we're continuing a powerful work, because the black artist, especially the black artist that is seen as such and lifted up as such in their community, is a major title. We see it more in our 21st century time, but the artist coming from a community that has to work so hard and deal with such concrete realities, and when the arts can be sometimes associated with self-aggrandizement, personal interests, personal expressions and passions, I think our relationship has always been a bit different, in which we're called to have a real relationship with what it means to be black. Like where a European artist could, it's about the aesthetic or the abstraction or the drips and the drops and the wrist we never get to have work outside of social context. It doesn't exist for us. So to be put forth and seen as that within my community, forget what the outside gives, but for my community to see me as that, I'm working very much in a very real path lay before me, and I'm just continuing the work.
I think that's like an important, as a black person, I feel like everything we do is political.
Our existence itself.
And so how are you balancing that though, right? Like how are you balancing the conversation that other people are having with your work? Because when you look at it, it doesn't have a color. It has color, but it doesn't have, I don't think, and maybe it also though, I will say, you can tell when something is done by a person of color, by somebody who is black. And so you do see that spirit in it because you can connect with it, right? It's something unexplainable. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate in that way. It's like when you see it, a black person has done it. But it doesn't, you wouldn't know, right? There's nothing specifically pointing to anything stereotypically black, exactly. And so how are you balancing that conversation in a time that is so politically and socially charged? What does that conversation look like for you, for the people who are digesting it?
For me, that's the great opportunity. The very idea is subversive. You look at my work, you are forced to step out of, in a way, here and now. That's the subversiveness in it. I'm not referencing they shit. I don't do the thing where I've had enough of a culture and I still continue to reference it or juxtapose it. I've studied it, I get it. I've kind of moved beyond it in a certain way. And in that way, I'm not going to create anything that recalls us back to what is. That's the freedom part. To engage in my work at all, you're forced to kind of break free a little bit, right? You're forced to step out of the current paradigm. You're forced to think a little bit deeper or feel a little bit deeper. You're not going to see something recognizable, easily digestible, I got it, and move on. We're not doing it. I'm inviting you, like you said, I open the portal. I invite you to fly free, explore the possibilities, right? Spend time with me in the unknown. It's a fun place, scary as hell. But even when I say this, we all, I used to ask folks, I had a painting once upon a time called The Black Hole that I exhibited as part of Neo the Birth. And I used to ask people, if you were in space on the edge of a black hole, would you jump in? In the very idea that there's a hesitation, I giggle. Because we all make decisions every day, and we have no idea what the outcome is going to be. So you're literally jumping into the black hole every day, but you're walking around afraid of jumping into it. Nah, you just got to get your sea legs. You just got to get used to the embracing of it. That's how you tap into self, right? We can live a life where we are distracted every moment of every day. Other door, sister. Yeah. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Yeah. There may be a chair in the back. You know, we might have some.
My bad, Joe. I just got off work.
Nah, it's love. Nah, it's love. But nah. No, you got to get your sea legs, because we all deal in that space of the unknown. That's how you get to know yourself, because we can spend a distracted life. That's where we were.
So distracted.
Not only apps or television, it is all the channels on television. It is all the various streaming sites. It is the various social media sites. It is the conversations. It is the everything. You could literally go months, weeks, years without dealing with self in a real way. You can distract yourself into oblivion to where you don't know yourself. Right? So it's that idea of just taking away those distractions and dealing with that unknown, dealing with that voice that you hear inside yourself that is saying things that many times you don't want to hear, but many times there's the things that you got to hear and got to deal with. And if it's hard, shit, grab some paper while you're dealing with it, shit. I mean, on a certain level, that's where my work comes from, right? That was the original space, right? Like, I didn't have words for it, but I needed an escape from this world. So more than 15 years ago, I would get my camera and I would just walk outside and take pictures. I just needed to, if I needed an escape from life. And now I recognize, that led me into my purpose. We're talking 10, 15 years later. But it does start with just needing a free space, because, you need a place in this world where it's not about right, wrong, good, bad. You're not worried about what somebody's going to think or not think. When I teach, I don't care about teaching artists. I care about teaching regular, everyday people the ability to find freedom through expression. Whatever that expression is. Moving your body, using a paintbrush, sculpting some shit, singing, banging on a drum, blowing through a horn. I don't care. But in a society that, in my opinion, in the way that it is structured, is very anti-life, we all need some way to rescue our spirit outside of art. So that's for everybody. And then you got the artists where we just take it a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah. This will be my last question, but on the topic of expression and the unknown, how has this gallery, how has 33G kind of impacted your practice or shaped your expression moving forward?
I mean, I see 33G as an extension of the practice. All of those same values, ideals that I try to take into the work, we take into the, building of this space. And while I'm saying that, I'm looking at particular people who have invested spirit, who have shown on these walls, who have just been part of family, who have helped out in different ways. And now, my curation game done gone crazy, right? Curating other artists and helping other artists think about the best ways to share their work. Trying to figure out how to make the space a little bit different every time we do after hours. I never want the space to feel the same for 2 after hours in a row. But then the diligence. We come in here, and then even days when we're not exactly sure what to do, but we know we got to do something because bills is tight. We just trust and continue in the practice and showing up even when we're unsure, and trusting, right, through our work that our ancestors, spirit, God, gods, whatever your nomenclature, trusting that comes through. I mean, that's the faith, right? That's the faith with work, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna open the floor to a few questions. I know we went over a little bit.
Nah, that's a vibe in that. Oh, yeah. I thought that was Kobe for a second.
Oh, me too.
I said, okay, that's it.
I know, I said, we taking a long time. I'm sorry, Kobe. I didn't know if he was
Not
playing
Kobe
like
putting the Grammy
the
music
Grammy
on.
music. No, I mean, before we open the floor to questions, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for sharing with us. You are seen and you are loved, and we appreciate you being vulnerable with us. And I know there's a lot of fear sometimes around sharing some of your practice, and I just want you to take this moment in and to see this group of people in this room who really appreciate you and look up to you and are inspired by you, and we love you. And we're looking forward to seeing more shows. And if you're interested in ways on supporting, right, it's showing up here, it's being in the gallery, it is purchasing work, but it is also supporting the artists, because we have amazing artists here in Las Vegas. And so if you're interested, yes, here in this room. And so if you're interested in being more immersed in that arts and cultural space, like there are places here that are willing to immerse you back. And so thank you. And now we'll let you guys, if anybody has any questions, the floor is open.
You said that you do not pre-see what you're doing. So that means you don't do a sketch pad to like doodle something and work off of that, or you do? Because I heard you say sometimes you do something you in a book or you put something on an idea. But is it created through language or through art?
The visuals exist on their own, right? So while certain works may take more time, like I always have a notebook, so there will be like, I consider all my notebook drawings down to this small, you know, like that one on the wall, you know, up to the biggest canvas. Part of the practice is developing that kind of bravery, but also just sense of peace to treat the very small and seemingly insignificant with the same respect, intention, and intentionality as a large canvas. Right, so it's not as so much like they're sketches, because my smallest notebook drawings are, you know, unique artworks in and of themselves. Now there may be a relationship to a bigger one just because of like proximity and time, right? Like I'll be in a certain like world for a little bit, and then at some point it breaks and it goes off into a new space, right? And my practice has been defined by those, right? I'll be in a certain world for like a year or 2 years. At a certain point and that's part of giving as well, right? Don't let attachment and just let it go and move on. So they're all unique. And so you more see relationships like in time that they were made, right? You could kind of, my own little seasons, if you will. I hope that kind of gave some context.
Philosophically, yes.
I can't help it.
I would like to say something. Most of you know that we share the same elders. We share the same grandparents.
Yes, ma'am.
So as he's speaking, I'm listening to all of our elders. They're coming to me almost like deja vu. And knowing Chase, knowing him from a little boy, he's always been very special and very different. And I can only say that when I took this class,
That's love.
I took this class, a generational, multi-generational class, and I enjoyed it so much. And it's almost like he's finishing some sentences that I said 10 years ago, 13 years ago. It's the strangest thing. But I also tell him all the time that we share the mitochondrial DNA. And that's why I felt different, and I know you feel that too, but I want to thank you for the Legacy Park, the Spears. Every time I pass there, I feel to what is intended for this community. It will be here for years to come. And I just want to personally thank you for that, for the creativity that you spent working so hard to make that a reality for us in this community. And I love you.
And I thank you because, hey, you was right there. That's my advisor on the project. Hold on. I'm advising. I got my advisor, so come on, family. Thank you. It means the world.
So much.
It means the world. That's why we do it. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Y'all made me cry.
When can we expect more work?
Okay. Right. So this comes down May 1st. If anybody wants to take a ride up to Reno or take a flight, May 3rd for a few months. When Langston Hughes came to town, we'll be open for some time. And, right now we're really working on, the next big show outside of Las Vegas. It's time for us to take this show on the road. And for me, the next step is showing the world what we're doing from here with the spirit of here. Not the spectacle of the Strip, but the groundedness of these people and this landscape. So that's what we're shopping around right now. So we got May 3rd in Reno. And our group show, Black and White, that opens in June. I may have a piece in there, but look out for something outside of Vegas. And then I think there might be a show 2026 that somebody's curated me for that'll be here.
Kobe was applying some pressure, so if people want it, you got to give it.
This is fact. At any moment, we would love to have any of you in for a private viewing. For those of us interested in collecting, if you want to know more about my practice, if you want to see more of the work, Kobe is a collector. He went through that private viewing process. He found actually quite a unique work.
He has 1,000+ works.
I have a lot, from
This
the
is just
photographs to the
glimpse.
rest.
It's really just a glimpse.
Yeah, so if you're into sculpture, if you're into painting, if you're into photography, we have various forms. So we are always willing to do private showings. Thanks, Kobe.
Question now, you say you use the word practice.
Practice.
Why, is there something that you use that particular terminology with the association of as an artist, and it sounds something like doctoratorial?
Yeah, but my world is very much. My world is very much between the intellectual. I'll write a thesis paper without a degree, right? We gonna get into our research, not for for not being validated through the form of, say, a degree, but we're doing this research for real reasons. Right, so the practice is just to really iterate that too. Because in the arts, right, it gets sometimes lost because you have this place like, yes, art is subjective, right? Really, whatever you are attracted to, yes. But at the same time, when we think of what makes an artist, quote unquote, valuable, or like one of those artists that is elevated to where they're important, it's depth of practice. And a pretty painting, a pretty photograph is easy to do. Right? To get someone to say, hey, I like this, rather easy, right? But to create a body of work or bodies of work that have a significance outside of just like, dislike, or good, bad, to have a body of work that creates cultural conversations, right? That has some sort of utility to the time that people are in, is a bit of a different thing. That's a lot of times why it takes so long for us to know if an artist is valuable or not. It's not just that idea of if they died or not. It's that chance, no, we get to see over years your dedication to practice. And I do very often make the analogy to sports. Like Steph Curry did not get to a place where he's shooting the ball from half court, turning around, and just knowing it's going to go in.
Right.
There's thousands and thousands and thousands of shots.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Like when Samantha talks about the practice, she sees it. I'm a little crazy. I'm in practice because my goal is not just to express myself, right? That's a certain level. We love everybody, play their pickup games, going to the park, you might be in your intramural league. That's love. But I'm working to what up? That's my daddy with family on the phone. But I'm really putting in the kind of work and not afraid to say that I want to be amongst, and I'm working to be amongst the best that have ever worked in the arts. I'm not afraid to put myself alongside Jack Whitten, Pete Mondrian on the European side. I'm not afraid to say that in the arts, I'm not just all-star, I'm all-time. They're going to put my jersey in the rafters.
Yes.
I'm the LeBron of
Yes.
but also recognizing you don't get there without intense practice.
True.
And so I take that on. And I accept that quietly and just do the work, because it is hard, because the arts, you don't have, I don't get to just, I love boxing, right? You talk your shit. Okay, we get to get in the ring and see who does their thing, right? I don't get that ultimate point of confrontation in the arts to really there's a difference between you and me. But there's a difference. And that's the level of work that we're doing with much intention and much effort.
Let's do it.
Yeah, if anybody else will get them. Ain't T, because ladies first, and then my brother James in the back. If y'all know, James is my dog. Desert Art Supplies, y'all done heard me talk about my dog James. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but I am the best auntie.
Come on.
Now, I just want to point something out really quickly. Everything that I've heard the two of you say, and everything that you promote has such a positive energy. I mean, people don't realize how extra blessed the people who live here are. Because people come here and they bring the best of themselves. They come to get married, divorced, get drunk, all the fun stuff, and they leave that here. They come and they leave that here, and it's here for the locals to absorb and to benefit from. And when you do something in life that contributes to that bubble, you're extra special. And I've known this since you were a kid. I've known that you were a little special. Amen.
My family keeps me grounded. You know what I'm saying? They keep me grounded. Hey, a little weird, little boy. I ain't gonna lie.
You fit right in with the rest of the weird family.
Bring it full circle. Thank you.
But I just want to say that also, and many of you might have read about this, but there is a city in the Midwest that a group of monks moved to years and years ago. And these monks moved there and they built this big temple, and they would shut down and pray every day at the same time. So the local people started doing that too. They would shut down their businesses and they would pray every day. All of a sudden, the crime rate went down, the cancer rate went down, people got healthier, people got stronger, people got happier. They brought that energy. And that's the advantage that Vegas has. And I'm so proud of you that you have picked and you have chosen and you have listened. Because so many of us don't listen to our spiritual directives. You can be tapping you on the shoulder saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. And we're like, well, that looks more fun over there, And so when you can open up to that artwork, to that talent, to that skill, you're a blessing. And I appreciate you, nephew.
All right, James, holla at us, brother, holla at us.
So I was wondering if you could bring it back to the deep dark days in Paris and tell us a little bit about that, and maybe how what you learned in your practice out there, how it helped you with the 33G.
James, after like 2-3 months, I didn't want to be there no more. And I think I was there for 10 months. In addition to the things I was reading, speeches I was listening to, the writings I was reading, and there's an extreme guilt at a certain point that hit. So I use we a lot because nothing I've ever done has been alone. I think any of us that like to play this game, if I did anything by myself, is quite selfish. So there's a point where I felt rather guilty for being there in that place, doing what I'm doing, and knowing the resources, that something like that takes. When I had discovered my purpose, and my purpose was recognizing that my practice creates energy, and the energy created by my practice need to be geographically located in the 89106. And so the rest of that time, you don't just live in guilt. You say, I'm going to use it. And so I just went into overdrive with study and practice. I was at libraries. I was at museums. I was in a whole course of study for a master's program that I just did their work just to get it done while I have my own personal course of study. So it's a very intense time. Wouldn't change it. Wouldn't repeat it. But that's what we have to do, right? I think even, that work, when we talk about the work we do in the abyss, right? When it's shutting yourself off from the distractions, a lot of the importance of that work is so that we are better attuned. What up, Miss Leia? So that we are better attuned to understand messages that we're given, and to understand our purpose and to just live within it. And I just transferred the energy of guilt to just work. I read a lot. Like when I think about how much I read, shit, because I was just reading. I would take a little time to eat. I would go read. I would do whatever classes I had to do. People out there thought I was weird because I was at a school that was very international, but I wasn't like going out and hanging out. It's gonna be funny for you to hear, but like I'm a nerdy dude, like right. I ain't never been like that dude, right, getting all the girls and shit. But I ain't never been so approached by women as I was when I lived over there. But engaging in none of it and choosing to be focused. And if I'm gonna have that opportunity, I'm gonna go to every fucking museum.
Yes.
I'm gonna see and learn and pick up everything I can to bring it back home to my people.
There you go.
That's what the mission became. Like there must have been a reason, because a lot of black artists before me have somehow been led to this romanticized ass city that's really full of rats and shit. It's like every other city, but it's the city of the lights. It's like every other city. They do got a lot of museums. They do museums, bread, and like sweets real good. I get out to the French. They bread game is on fire. They like little gardens and shit. When you walk around, it's cute and shit. But yeah, we said we gonna pick up game, and then we just gonna bring all that here, that library. We just gonna do the work.
Hey Chase.
Yes, sir.
I had said I was not gonna say anything, but James made me. I'm Chase's dad, James, by the way. So I will tell you that on the travels he did on the weekends to the other Netherlands and wherever he went to museums, he did call and say, hey, I'm going to be on a train. I'm going to be going here this weekend. And what I was so proud about that is the courage it took to travel in a foreign country alone, because we travel as a family internationally, but for him to have the courage to do that with purpose, and every time he was going somewhere, it was a very clear purpose, and that made me very, very proud and reassured me that the resources are well used. So to hear it this way, Chase, I'm beyond proud of you. Beyond
Big journalist. Sorry.
We talked about the paper that you use, and I really appreciate you using the newsprint. Very nostalgic. I think we all used it as children in elementary. But what was the motivation behind how you curated tonight to give us a glimpse?
A glimpse. Whew.
Right, you got thousands of pieces, but you chose these.
We're gonna be humble, like 1,000. Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna call it 1,000. So this work actually on the wall, my works, very many of them you see title unknown. This is one where it's very apparent, glimpses. The title is very apparent. When even thinking about what to show. Come on in, family. Come on in. Other door. Other door. Yeah. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. So, it's a hard place to start, right? When you're thinking about, I knew that I had things in the back catalog I needed to show, right? I knew already there was so much that had been done. The shit that I'm making now, crazy. But we just not ready to show it yet. So I knew that we had to go back. And I wasn't really sure. As Samantha, I was going through, looking at different things, taking pictures of different things, sending her ideas. But, I thought about that work. And this body here, it came out very much at point in time, very sequentially. And the moment that I thought about it, okay, that work has a title, Glimpses. That's it. We're building the show around that. And from there, we just kind of going through. Luckily I'm organized, so most of my works are photographed already. So I can kind of go through my archive and start putting some things together. And then I start pulling things out and workshopping it. And that continuation of trusting the spirit, right? It's going to make itself apparent. We just have to show up and be doing something. Right? Just show up and be doing something, and something will lead into something, and we got there. But shit, at first, I ain't had no idea. But if there's one thing I have cultivated over the years of my practice, it is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. I tiptoe in that shit. I love it now. It's fun in the unknown space. It's a blast in that space where others might get a little nervous. So you just trust my world, my practice, getting this far. Those of y'all that know me deeply know there's been so many months where shit, I don't know. We don't have the money to pay the bills for the shit that's coming, but somehow every time, and we're talking now for like 15 years, this shit is just skirting enough to make it keep going. It's faith. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. So our job is to show up, do the work, be disciplined. A way is always made. A way is always made if we're moving, in my opinion, in right spirit.
That's right.
And so we just hold tight and it'll figure itself out. It's like it's both that deep, but ain't that deep at the same time.
So it was an intuitive process. You were looking through your art, and then you came to this one.
Yeah, so a process like this involves, I looked through probably 50 different photographs. I looked through probably 100 or so different painted pieces. I went back through my notebooks and culled through probably 50 to 100 different notebook excerpts over the years. And then it ultimately comes together.
Super dope.
Yeah.
The use of the newsprint, very impressive.
Oh, I got a lot of work to show you then. I got a lot of shit on newsprint.
Private viewing.
I just want to go back to your proud ancestral line. I am also so proud of you because I have.
It's my TT too. It's my TT too.
You just mentioned about the struggle the last 15 years, and those of us who are a part of your family, we've been in that with you. And just to know, I admire your boldness. You are so courageous when you were brought up in such a safe space where we were very safe and we were just very kind of like not much of risk takers. But I remember you being in LA for quite some time on a journey as well, living in the most modest little space when you could have and had a corporate American job. You had everything right there at your tips to make it big, where you could have at that particular time a beautiful home, a beautiful this, a beautiful that. But you instead took a leap of faith and decided that you didn't want that for your life. But instead, you wanted your purpose. And I often think about what could you do in life. I just said this to my husband recently. What is it that you can do in life where you would love to do and you didn't even get paid for doing it? And a lot of us don't take that risk to do what we love to do. Instead, we want to play it safe. So as your aunt, I admire that part about you because you didn't go down that route to whereas this is like where the majority of us have been, you know, but you totally took a different journey. And I think about that picture in the back. I can't remember the name of it. It's to the left. And it looks like a crossroad. And that's what I see. You could take this route, you could take that route. And looking below was the safe route. But looking ahead was the big horizon. And I'm so proud of you for taking that route forward and upward to the big horizon, because it's bigger, it's greater than just stuff and money, but you're leaving behind a legacy for the generation to come, for the Josiah, for the Jaleas, for all of your nieces, your nephews, your little cousins, and so forth, to say, look how great this is. This was my nephew, this was my uncle, this is my cousin. So, proud of you, kid. I call you
Just an acknowledgement to appreciate the people in our lives and why we use we all the time. I used to tell Big Herm in his 90s, sitting at that table before he made transition, I used to tell Big Herm, I told you too, I very intentionally, I used to see that line, our people coming from wherever they came from prior to what is called the United States. Of course, we don't have an immigration story, so we don't know where we came from in that way. But from Mississippi, that line through the different stops our people took to end up in Las Vegas, I see where my family is taking it. And now I look at myself, my cousin William, and we are extending this thing across the world. I used to tell my daddy, shit, at the end of the day, one of us is living in Paris. We done took this shit from Mississippi to Paris. Shit. Now we need to go and get to the continent. You know, I need to go and fuck around in Angola and whatnot. But, you know, just that idea. And that's why, you know, those of you who know me and wonder why I say we so much, because it's we, yeah.
Yeah, and to acknowledge this young man over here too, my other nephew.
Come
and
on.
the things that he's doing in the community.
Come on, big commissioner, say that.
Yeah. These kids are amazing. So proud of both of you guys.
Yeah, we love y'all. Okay, so I will turn the air back on once the Q&A is done. No pressure, because it's getting a little toasty. Any more questions? You want to call that? Sorry, I took over.
It's 8:15. I just want to give people time to like look at art, and if anyone has like a pressing question that you want to ask in front of everyone. Otherwise, Chase will be here all night.
Another comment.
You already said a comment. Go ahead.
You did an outstanding job.
Yeah, Samantha Vitone, baby.
Great job, Samantha.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be here. Please enjoy the show. We have some special works, some prints with note cards. Like you can send them to people. You can share them with
the
people
little 3-pack
in the store if
Yeah.
you're interested in supporting in some way. There's also so much work from other artists that we've held in the space in there if you want to support. Everything on the walls is for sale. There's price sheets laid
Floating
around.
around.
And so if you are interested in anything, please feel free to reach out to Chase or I about anything that you want to inquire. And thank you guys so much for being here, truthfully. It was such a special
Shout out to our brother Cool Kobe. So you're getting a little sneak. Cool Kobe, every after hours, he does his thing in this space. The next after hours is April 19th. We will be celebrating the DJ's birthday. So extra special. But we love y'all. My brothers, you know, we're going to do our little thing, put the chairs up so we can all look at the art. And yeah, appreciate y'all.
Yeah.